7th of July. It's Proclamation news and Gatherence. Capital P in Proclamation. I'm the capital P in persuasion. I'm the capital P in persuasive. I'm the capital P in punctuation. I'm the capital P in provocative. I'm the capital P in propaganda. Capital P in purity. Capital P in progressive. Capital P in progression. Capital P in philanthropist. Capital P in populism. And the capital P in the prodigious prominence, Professor Johnson. I'm here to tell you, maybe not happy where your life's headed. But sometimes in life you might sit there and have a drink and think, I'm not happy with doing it. I mean, when I used to drink back in the day, about 4 or 5 years ago, I'd sit there, why am I doing this? Or eating a takeaway. It sits on your stomach all day. How's your stomach? I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through hell? I smoke cigarettes. I really am trying to kick the habit. I need to make change. I'm not absolutely squeaky clean perfect. Nobody is. No one's squeaky clean perfect. But we all want to make that change. And I want to help you make that change to better your aspirations, better your life goals. Maybe your mother, maybe your father or brother or sister. But you want to be a better person than what you are. You want to be better for your mother. You want to be better for your father. You're the backbone of your family because you're the younger generation of your family, perhaps. You need to be there to support your family. To use my cognitive skills, I'm not saying that I am the capital P in purity, although I announce it. I'm trying to get people to actually be encouraged with what I'm saying in more than anything, because you're your own ideology. What you put in your body and how you maintain your body and your health is your ideology. How you want to, if you come to Spaghetti Junction roundabout, you got all these turnings, like I said before. You've got the first turning, Bar Street, second turning, Takeaway Street, third turning, Smoking Street, because I smoke. Or you got the fourth turning, some of us might take the first or second. Of your aspirations. Let's get what's getting in the way of your goals. Let's get what's getting in the way of you achieving. So, you need to rethink and think to myself, this is what I need to do, and this is how I'm going to better myself. Think logical of how and where you want your life to head. Really, I'm trying to help. I'm not trying to rip people off. Maybe you're not happy in your job. Maybe you're not happy with your financial status. Maybe you're not happy in your relationship. Why carry a burden on your shoulder for your success? We need a relationship to make happiness. Do you really need to dip your wick or dip your honey pot, so to speak, for a woman? Do you really need to make you? Professionality comes from how you condone yourself. Professionality is how you condone yourself. You want to be a professional football player, a professional boxer. You can't go, I can't do it because X, Y, and Z. My girlfriend's in the way. What I eat, my bad habits of eating in the way. My bad habits of drinking in the way. You can't do it because you're not professional. It's not professional, is it? You've got to work hard at it. You've got to work hard at it. And put your absolute all into it to achieve in life. Ladies and gents, that's just like my little talk for the first 5 minutes. We're going to move on with this show. I'm going to give you this next product that I'm going to give out. It's going to help you change your aspirations. You want to fuel your body with the perfect fuel, don't you? You don't want to put smoke in your body. You don't want to put alcohol in your body. You don't want to put takeaways in your body. I put smoke on my body. It's not perfect. I do have a takeaway, very, very rare, maybe once or twice in a year. RelaxUK.com. Relax UK Limited, health, travel and wellness products since 1997. UK relaxation shops selling various ranges of products from relaxation, travel, well-being, biofeedback, sleeping and natural products. Well, also get a pen and paper ready. PSS alarms, very ethical and pragmatic works carried out. All areas covered, including central station monitoring provided. All work, a friend of mine's company. All work done according to insurance requirements. He's carried out etiquette works in Harry Kane's stepmother's house in Hertfordshire, Potter's Bar. He's carried out etiquette works in Essex, such as Casbah restaurant. It's changed over names so many times I can't remember the name of it. The new original name. Anyway, installation and maintenance of intruder alarms, fire alarms, CCTV or work guaranteed certified to SSARB standard 24-hour call-out service. Can provide CCTV for pubs, clubs, restaurants or new business setup. Secure your business. Mention Professor Johnson for extra discount. Secure your home, secure your business. Your safety and quality within your business are paramount. So think safety, think first. Secure your equity. Here's a contact number, ladies and gents. It's an 11-digit number. 07908 216 142. 07908 216 142. Ask to speak to Tarek Khan. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. I don't reckon he eats many takeaways. He's quite, for his age, he's very, very well kept. He looks after his mental health and his well-being. But you don't want someone to come around your house. I mean, if they takeaways, find their little over your garden, find their fag ash and their butts over your garden. You've got children, do you? So if you want someone professional to come and do the job, speak to Tarek Khan. Very, very etiquette. Very, very, very etiquette in style and pragmatic with sense. Anyway, before we go on to UK roads, I mean, you get in a little car. Firstly, you need your key, don't you? And you need yourself. But you're not just going to get in your car and drive it. There's things to think about. Is your car still warranted? Is your insurance up to date? Have you got tax? We go, yeah. But some people's MOT and tax does run out and they forget. They let it slip because they had an argument the week before. Or they went out the weekend before they went to use a car. They forget. So many people on these roads are illegal. It's crazy. Check, make sure you got enough PSI limits in your tyres, enough pressure, air pressure, and your PSI limits on the side of the tyre, tread of your tyre. Make sure you got enough tread on your wheels as well. Check your engine oil, water coolant tank, make sure they're topped up to maximum level. You've got obviously your engine management. Sometimes you need to get it plugged in if the light comes on, but some cars do have a fault with the engine management light. But it's always worth to get checked over, isn't it? Make sure your cam belt. A cam belt is a big thing. I don't usually bring that. Make sure your cam belt is updated when it's been changed. I think it's like something like 60 to 70,000 miles. I don't know. You have to look at with your manual book with the car. I don't know how many miles every car is. They'll change and differ to the make and model of the car. Check for further police instruction, road safety works. Check your centre mirror and wing mirror before acting in safe, sufficient direction of choice, making sure cyclists, cars are not overtaken. Put you and the passengers on board have seatbelts, and babies have seatbelt adapters adjacent to the car seat. I bet you think to yourself, where does he get all this information from? I'll speak off the cuff. I'll speak it all off the cuff for about the first 15 minutes. Sorry, Mohammed, I can't take the call because I'm running the show on segments and it's all politics and accident based. But if you're still about shortly, we can chat, no problem. Anyway, incidents today. Lovely to have you through that, Mohammed. I really appreciate it. It's not me being rude, it's I'm trying to run the show smoothly and I will try and get you on the show. In Colchester, 10:31 a.m. A1 232, queuing traffic and construction area on the roundabout. Queuing traffic on A1 232, Ipswich Road, near A133, St Andrews Avenue. in the construction area on the roundabout. All approaches congested. 10:31 p.m. Channel today. A12. Busy but moving. Congestion to busy but moving on the A12 both ways between Junction 18, A106, Danbury, and Junction 19. A130, Colchester Road, Boreham Interchange. Congestion to Junction 16, Gatherence for northbound. 7th August, 11:51 a.m. first reported. M25, slow traffic, holiday traffic. Slow traffic on M25 anti-clockwise from Junction 21A. A405, North Orbital Road, St Albans, to Junction 18. A404, Wickmansworth Road, Chorleywood. Holiday traffic. Traffic is also slow on the M1 southbound approaching Junction 21. 9:50 a.m. reported. Kings Hill Avenue, road blocked, accident and queuing traffic. Road blocked and queuing traffic due to incident on Kings Hill Avenue between Goosenat Avenue and Greenway. 11:54 a.m. first reported. You know, like I was saying before, you know, you're going to go from A to B. Most people don't plan destination. You're going to go Gatwick Airport, take your family on holiday perhaps. You're just going to wake up in the morning, get in the car, and not think about what lies ahead on the roads. Theoretically speaking, I think sat-navs nowadays, they pick up incidents on the road, so they might divert you into a different direction so you don't get caught up to miss your flight. But if you don't have a sat-nav and you're going straight out, you should think about planning your destination, because if there is an incident on the road, you're going to get caught up, aren't you, in a hold-up, a pile-up, and maybe cause another incident on the road. Who knows? It's always better to think ahead. Always better to think ahead. Absolutely. Just bear with me. We're going to we've got a short break, ladies and gents. We've got so many more segments. We've got about 5 more segments to get through. Appreciate everyone coming through. We're going to be going back into the lockdown, I think.
But by police chiefs as well, is the idea of enforcement, tightening up enforcement for the minority, they say, who continue to flout the rules. So I think you're absolutely right. They'll want to, despite hopeful news coming through, keep reiterating that message. Jess, thank you. Let's join the Prime Minister at Downing Street.
As you know, this country is engaged in the biggest and fastest vaccination programme in our history, and the chances are that you know someone personally who has already received a vaccine. But it would be fatal if this sense of progress were now to breed any kind of complacency, because the pressures on the NHS are extraordinary. On Tuesday, we saw 4,134 new admissions to hospital on a single day, the highest at any point in this pandemic. There are now more than 37,000 COVID patients in hospital across the UK, and in spite of all the efforts of our doctors and nurses and our medical staff, we're now seeing cancer treatments sadly postponed, ambulances queuing, and intensive care units spilling over into adjacent wards. And with 55,761 positive cases since yesterday, and very sadly 1,280 deaths, this is not the time for the slightest relaxation of our national resolve and our individual efforts. So please stay at home, please protect the NHS and save lives, and please remember that this disease can be passed on not just by standing too near someone in a supermarket queue, but also by handling something touched by an infected person. And remember also that 1 in 3 people with COVID have no symptoms, and that's why that original message of hands, face, space, washing your hands is as important now as it has ever been. And it's precisely because we have the hope of that vaccine and the risk of new strains coming from overseas that we must take additional steps now to stop those strains from entering the country. So yesterday we announced that we're banning flights from South America and Portugal, and to protect us against the risk of as yet unidentified new strains, we will also temporarily close all travel corridors from 0400 hours on Monday. Following conversations with the devolved administrations, we will act together so this applies across the whole of the UK. This means that if you come to this country, you must have proof of a negative COVID test that you have taken in the 72 hours before leaving, and you must have filled in your passenger locator form, and your airline will ask for proof of both before you take off. You may also be checked when you land and face substantial fines for refusing to comply. And upon arrival, you must then quarantine for 10 days, not leaving your home for any reason at all, or take another test on day 5 and wait for proof of another negative result. And we will be stepping up our enforcement, both at the border and in country. And it's vital to take these extra measures now when, as I say, day by day, hour by hour, we are making such strides in protecting the population. We've now vaccinated over 3.2 million people across the UK, doubling the numbers of last week. That's 2.8 million people in England, 225,000 in Scotland, 126,000 in Wales, and 115,000 in Northern Ireland. Yesterday alone, we vaccinated around 250,000 people in England, and that is still far more than any other country in Europe. And with almost 45% of our over 80s now vaccinated, and almost 40% of care home residents, we are steadily protecting those most at risk. And I pay particular tribute to the vaccination efforts going on in Cockermouth in Cumbria, Yateley and Cheltenham, where they vaccinated around 90% of their over 80s in their communities. And I also pay tribute to Northwest Lincolnshire, to Sunderland and Morecambe Bay, where vaccination teams have protected over 80% of their care home residents. And it's thanks to that amazing constellation of the vaccination teams, doctors, nurses, armed forces, local authorities, pharmacies, volunteers, that we're steadily building up that immunity, that protection for the vulnerable, for the NHS, and for us all. So when the call comes, please do get a jab, and in the meantime, stay at home, protect the NHS, and save lives. And I'm now going to hand over to Chris Whitty to do the slides.
Thank you, Prime Minister. First slide, please. Just 3 slides this evening. The first one is the number of people testing positive for COVID. And what you can see on this slide is the number is extremely high. We're still at the place where just shy of 1 in 50 people has COVID, according to ONS data, the most recent that has been published. But there is now some levelling off in the cases. This is earlier in the bits of the country which were in tier 4 for longest, but we are seeing some levelling off everywhere, as far as we can see, including the areas which entered lockdown more recently. This is thanks to enormous efforts by so many people, and this is because a very high proportion of the population, virtually everyone, in fact, if you look at the polling.
That's quite, we're going to come back to that, ladies and gents. Don't worry about that. I'll get a couple more segments. Boris Johnson will not isolate after COVID case among staff. Anyway, before we move on, I mean, really got to start thinking about this, these lockdown measures. You know, I've been out. I went a bit out of my depth. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? Obviously, we got the all cleared out. We could start travelling about a little bit. I went all the way to Sussex on train. Very, very risky business with the cases rising. Come back and had a COVID rapid test. I was fine. That's the main thing. But I'm not going to be taking risks when I ain't got my own vehicle. I'm not going to be going anywhere. It's just lockdown on your own is so hard. It's unrealistic. I tell you what, I won't be taking risks for the sake of my family. I was going to go back out Tuesday, but I've been in an iron about it. But my destination was going to go said they're not too well, so I'm not going there now. But I'm hoping everyone else is going to start thinking about what means more, their health or their happiness. Because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be happy either, are you? That's what you got. That's what you got to think of. Doing the little things in life at home is what's going to make you happy. I'm so thankful. I brought, I think I've bought about 6 kilograms of clay, so I'm gonna start making my little clay figures. I'm lucky. You know, I've got a few cognitive skills. I can fall back on something and do something that's going to make me happy, rather than sit there. Do you know what? When you think, oh, that could have been a good time. You think, oh, might, but you know, it should sort of get me down. I could have a good time. And so what? So what? You will get many more good times ahead of you if you stay under the lockdown measures, under the rules of COVID. We'll get through this if we stick to the restrictions. You know, Boris Johnson will not isolate after COVID case among staff. The Prime Minister visited a police college during his 2-day visit to Scotland. Downing Street says Boris Johnson will not self-isolate after a member of his staff tested positive for COVID during a trip to Scotland. Number 10 said the visit was carried out in line with COVID protocols and the Prime Minister has not been in close contact with a positive test. But one source told the BBC that Mr Johnson had been close to the person who tested positive. Labour accused the PM of cooking up a reason to be above the rules. Mr Johnson visited Scotland on Wednesday and Thursday, travelling to the Central Belt and the North East. It's understood the member of staff accompanied him on a visit to the police college in Fife from Wednesday. It's also understood the person travelled with the Prime Minister on a plane on the same day. The sources told BBC the Prime Minister and the staff members were side by side at points during his visit to Scotland. Anyone traced as close contact of a positive case currently have to self-isolate at home for 10 days under government rules. Number 10 spokesperson said the Prime Minister regularly visits communities across the UK and all aspects of visits are carried out in line with the COVID guidance. The Prime Minister has not come into close contact with anyone who has tested positive. Government guidance says someone can be in close contact if they have a face-to-face conversation with 1 metre within someone testing positive. Or they can have been within 1 metre for 1 minute without face-to-face contact, or within 2 metres of the person for longer than 15 minutes. The 15-minute period can count as a single contact or multiple contacts over the course of a day. The guidance says someone may also be at close contact if they have travelled in the same vehicle or plane as a person tested positive. Labour Party Chair Annalisa Dodd said it's clear that the Prime Minister hasn't learned anything from what happened last time he tried to cook up a reason to be above the rules everyone else has to follow. Senior Conservatives are really talking about the public for fools. This is yet another example of one rule for them and another for everyone else. Mr Johnson recently left a period of self-isolation when he was identified as a contact of Health Secretary Sajid Javid after he tested positive last month, along with Chancellor Rishi Sunak, who was also identified as a contact. The PM initially tried to avoid quarantine for a workplace daily testing pilot Downing Street is taking part in. However, in a rapid U-turn, both Mr Johnson and his Chancellor decided to enter isolation after their plans to take part in the scheme prompted the furious political backlash. I know like these are the top of the creme de la creme, but this is where the police have got to step in and say, look, we know you set the rules, we know you're, probably I don't have to. They're not above police. I wouldn't say they're above policemen because that's not a nice thing today. Police, they're working throughout the inhumane society. That job is so rewardable. What they do, they should be so proud of themselves, putting their own heads on the line to serve and protect us. I think, theoretically speaking, their job is more rewardable than a politician. I know money-wise it isn't. It should be because they're putting physically their own health on the line. Obviously, I'm not. I want to be a policeman and protect the Dominion of UK. I've had a serious injury when I was 18. Serious injury. That's the only reason I've tried to get in the specials, couldn't get in because of medical reasons. But you know, I can't say I can only thank police for not letting me in. It's not. I'd like to. I'd love to. It'd be amazing. But anyway, plus I won't be able to work through the cold weather climate. New oil development off Shetland should go ahead, says Starmer. Plans to tap a new oil field off Shetland should not be approved. Labour leader Keir Starmer has said UK authorities are considering whether to allow drilling at the huge Cambo oil field to the west of Scotland. But Sir Keir, this would have give off completely the wrong signal. In the year, Scotland is also set to host the COP26 climate conference. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Boris Johnson told the BBC Scotland that he is not aware of the development. When pressed on the matter on Thursday, he said that the contact not to be ripped up, but said, "We need to transition as fast as we reasonably can to renewable energy sources." The Cambo field is situated 125 kilometres, 70 miles west of Shetland, and contains more than 800 metres barrels of oil. The exploration licence was granted in 2001, but the Oil and Gas Authority still considered whether to give approval for extraction. If it does, drilling could begin as soon as 2022 and continue approximately for 25 years. The OGA said the application process was confidential, but not that it could only authorise any development with the agreement of the UK ministers and consider report of their environmental regulators. While visiting a wind farm in central Scotland, Sir Keir told BBC Scotland that Cambo development should not go ahead. He said the critical question to COPD is how we meet the challenge of the climate crisis. The idea is that a global conference here at the same time as approving Cambo does not make any sense. It gives off completely the wrong signal. Asked about the Cambo development in a BBC interview on Wednesday, the Prime Minister said he was not aware of that particular decision. Sir Keir said that this tells you everything you need to know about the Prime Minister. Great on sound bites, hopeless on substance. Most politicians in the UK want to be seen in the Green 2021 as the UN climate comes from Glasgow. That's why both Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson were visiting Scottish wind farms, championing a low carbon future, of course. Tackling climate change requires action as well as words. We will continue to need hydrocarbons in an energy mix for the years to come, but environmental campaigners want new developments blocked. The Labour leader agrees to the Cambo should not go ahead, but the Prime Minister argues it's not that simple, that existing contracts could be torn up. Yet, if drilling is approved on his watch in the years of the COP26, it hardly makes it easier for the UK to lead the world to a low carbon future. This is tricky for the Scottish Government too. They avoid taking a public position on Cambo, even though they are negotiating a power sharing deal with the Scottish Greens, who think new oil extraction will wreck the climate. Boris Johnson visited the Moray offshore wind farm east. The government has previously defended such developments, saying that while we're working hard to drive demand for fossil fuels, there will continue to be ongoing demand for oil and gas over the coming years. Speaking to journalists on Thursday, Mr Johnson called for a smooth and sensible transition away from fossil fuels. He said, "We understand the importance of North East Scotland and oil and gas in the industry. It has been a huge part of the economy for decades now. Contract that have been signed should not be ripped up, but we need to transition as fast as we reasonably can." A fair transition. Sycamore Point Energy, the firm behind the Cambo proposal, says it could create more than 1,000 jobs directly and even more in the supply chain. CEO Jonathan Rogers said the company had proactively taken significant steps to minimise the emissions footprint of the project, which would support the country's energy transition by maintaining secure UK supply. Pressed on whether rejecting the scheme would cost jobs in the oil and gas sector, Serkier said it was important to have a strategy for the future. Labour leader said, "We need a fair transition, a fair change. I think the communities and those in the North East working in oil and gas. Any timetable for change needs to involve them, because what happened a generation ago with the coal mining cannot be allowed to happen again, which you have an abrupt adjustment. You hollow out communities and take away well-paid, highly skilled jobs. We cannot make that mistake again." The Scottish Government has committed itself for or against the development, although it does not need. With offshore licensing reserved to Westminster, the spokesperson said the government was fully committed to becoming a net zero economy by 2045, and the oil and gas sector can play a positive role in Scotland's energy transition. However, the SNP administration is at the advanced stage of talks with the Scottish Green Party about a cooperation agreement, which could potentially put Green MSMPs who strongly opposed the oil and gas developments into ministerial office. Green co-leader Lorna Slater recently attended a protest against a Cambo development outside the UK's headquarters in Edinburgh. It is understood that any pact between the parties would leave them free to disagree on some issues, including the future of the North Sea industry. I don't know if any of you, ladies and gentlemen listening, have ever been involved in the protests that go on. I mean, I see one, Joe, when we're supposed to come out the transition period of lifting the restrictions. I think we've done it a few days late because of whatever reasons. There's I'm in an iron if it's safe enough to lift the restrictions yet. So people protesting my city centre, town centre. It could be a city, you've got a cathedral. It might be a city now. I know it's going for Parliament, not quite sure. But anyway, people protesting, saying we want our freedom back. We want to go back to normal. You know, obviously, protests, I mean, people's opinions are there. But it's important to, you know, share your opinion, how distressed it is. Everyone's distressed in the current climate, the way things are proactive for the future of generations. We worry about if our children go a generation this way, if this COVID takes over all of us and makes us all sick and ill. Anyway, only the strong-minded people survive. I'm not saying I am one of them strong-minded people, because I've been in lockdown on my own. It's very, very boring, very quiet, very slow. Idiot. Essex mum drove one way around Harrods roundabout with child in the car. The 30-year-old reserved at speed down a grass verge with her 7-year-old child in the back to get away from the police. A woman who drove at speeds of about 80 miles per hour and the wrong way around the roundabout with a 7-year-old son in the car has narrowly avoided jail. Ludicrous. On October the 8th, 2019, Kerry Ann Hibbert recklessly drove around the area of her home in Harwich in a bid to get away from the police, who she believed would come and take her children away. Chelmsford Crown Court heard today, August 4th, had a 30-year-old had reversed at speed down a grass verge to escape from police, while one of her sons was in the back of the car, before driving around a 30-mile-per-hour zone at speeds of up to 80. Hibbert continued to ignore officers, request to stop, and proceed to accelerate towards police, and even drive around the roundabout the wrong way. The mother, too, is currently in custody, serving another sentence, was spared jail after being handed 9 months imprisonment, suspended for 18 months for driving a motor vehicle dangerously. She's lucky she didn't kill that baby. They have to take that seriously. Reversed back at speed into the main road. Despite Hibbert's offence taking place on October 2019, prosecutor Mr. Stefanelli noted there was a considerable delay in bringing the offence to the courts. despite her guilty plea and ready admissions. On the day of the incident, October the 8th, 2019, Mr. Cifanelli said the police attended the defendant's home initially as they were concerned about the defendant's children and wished to speak to her. Hibbert, however, refused to answer the door. He told the court and told the officers to F off. Police returned to the address around 2 hours later and found Hibbert sat in the driver's seat on a silver Volkswagen Golf opposite her house, with one of her 2 children sat in the back. The police parked in the front of the defendant's car to prevent her driving away, and one of the police officers got out of the vehicle, at which stage the defendant reversed back at speed across the grass verge into the main road without stopping despite a request from the officers. The prosecutor has added, the court heard how police attempted to pursue Hibbert for some time, but decided to reduce their speed and switch off their emergency lights for fear they were causing more harm than good. Mr. Cifanelli added there were multiple reports of the defendant speeding up to 70, 80 in a 30-mile-per-hour zone, overtaking, making manoeuvres with dangerous disregarded for road users, all while her 7-year-old son was in the back of the car. It was only once an officer stopped in front of Hibbert's car did she stop, he told the court. Hibbert was arrested later that day when she contacted police herself and later admitted dangerous driving. It was until February the 3rd this year, however, until Hibbert appeared before a magistrate's court to plead guilty. Poor mother was suffering some serious mental health. So I'm not going to write the girl off. She probably, maybe it could be drugs, who knows, drug related, I don't know. Why was she driving around at that speed with the kids in the car? I do not know. I've seen several mums do it in the past. It's some mental health thing where, I don't know, could be cannabis, psychosis, anything, I don't know. I'm not going to point fingers. It's too close on my doorstep. I don't want to write people off and get myself in trouble. As I am a father, I am also a supporter for my family, my immediate family, mother, father, brother, sister. She's in serious danger of having her baby taken into care. Defendant Annie Fraser told the court that the mum of 2 children, aged 9 and 7, currently in care, and has just found out she was around 15 weeks pregnant. She told the judge she was anxious about 2 things. One, she wants to say goodbye to her children in suitable surroundings, and the other thing, she's anxious for somewhere to see her children in a suitable location, not in prison, and be set up. In terms of baby, she's dangerous. She is in serious danger of having her baby taken to care. Miss Fraser added, the children have been taken off her. Nothing in young woman's life is more serious than that. What she needs is a chance. While Miss Fraser noted Hibbert's record of offending, she told the court how she pulled away from the unsuitable relationships and had a council house set up for her by a friend. She added she's now 30 and does show some determination to do as much as she can to keep hold of a baby. After serving 12-month sentence in November 2019, Hibbert was then sentenced to another 3 months after another offence this year and is due to be released on August the 26th. Speaking to the judge from custody, Hibbert said, I know I've messed up and I know I've been in a bad place. I've let my children down. I need to get out, sort out my life and work with social services, she added. I miss my children. You were driving completely dangerous. Sentencing Hibbert, Judge Dave Banner, QC, said he was baffled that it took so long for Hibbert to be seen before a court for offences. The matter is even more baffling. On November 25th, 2020, you appeared at Ipswich Crown Court in respect of dangerous driving that occurred in May 2020 and given 12 months immediately, he said. The situation is worse still that you appeared in Colchester Magistrates Court on May 27th for 3 offences. Inexplicable delay in court proceedings, the judge said, left him with a sentencing dilemma. He noted Hibbert admitted on the day of the incident that she had been an idiot and had driven with no care. However, he stressed that she had been sentenced for the Crown Court in Ipswich in November 2020. Her prison sentence may not have been much longer. What you did, nevertheless, extremely wrong, he said. You were driving complete danger with one of your two little boys in the car with you. To avoid the police, you reversed on the grass bank at speed. You ignored requests to stop. You drove around for a time in the area of your home at speed for stages up to 70 to 80 miles per hour in a 30 mile per hour zone. You overtook Rexy, accelerated towards the police, and ran the risk of collision when you drove the wrong way around the roundabout. The judge added that one police officer described Hibbert's driving as one of the worst, if not the worst driving he'd ever seen. Judge Turner noted that Hibbert had a history of 16 previous convictions and 41 offences over the space of 15 years. Despite this, he said he would give Hibbert the opportunity to give her life back on track and sentenced her to 9 months imprisonment, suspended for 18 months. I'm just overwhelmed that she hasn't hurt anyone innocent on the road and her own children. I hope she comes back a better person. I'm sure she will. She's a mother. You can tell she loves her kids. But why did she get to the point where she feels she had to take the kids to safety out of the way? The police are there to try and help you. Let's hope she gets the support she needs and her family all back on track. No one deserves to lose their family, but she needs to come back with better mental health.
Data is adhering to the guidance and staying at home and minimising the number of contacts they have. And this is leading to this impact. And we were not sure this was going to be possible with this new variant, but this demonstrates that with the actions everyone's taken, we are now slowing this right down, and we hope it will, in due course, start to drop. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, the number of people going into hospital lags behind the number of people who actually catch the disease, because there's a delay before hospitalisation. So the number of people entering hospital is still rising in most parts of the country, and the number of people in hospital is still rising in most parts or all parts of the country, because it takes a while for people to be discharged. And what you can see here in this dotted line is the peak from the first wave in April. And as you can see, we have well exceeded this. And my colleagues in the NHS are working incredibly hard to care for all of these patients, as well as everybody else who has other medical problems. And we want to re-stress this evening that if you have any serious medical problems, heart attacks, strokes, these kind of very major issues, the NHS, absolutely, you should be contacting, and hospital, if appropriate, is where you should go. So this, they are achieving this and continuing to run the service, but there's very large numbers of people now in hospital, and they will continue to rise probably into next week. Next slide, please. And still later, sadly, some people die, and the number of deaths is again rising steadily, and that will continue to rise into next week, because there's a lag between people going into hospital and then sadly some people dying, and you can see the data here. If we look forward over the next few weeks, the effects of everyone's actions in helping to reduce transmission will begin to reduce this strong pressure of the virus and reduce the pressure on the NHS and reduce the number of deaths. And with a delay, the fact that we're vaccinating the most vulnerable people, the people in care homes and in above 80 at the moment, it will in due course move slightly further down the age spectrum. These are the people who are at highest risk of dying. And therefore the impact on reducing deaths from this vaccination programme, astonishing vaccination programme delivered by the NHS, will come first. The impact on reducing pressure on hospitals will take longer, because there's a younger age cohort in addition in hospital, in addition to those older citizens. So that is where things we hope will go over the next few weeks, but I'm afraid in the next week we do anticipate the number of people in the NHS and the number of deaths will continue to rise as the effects of what everyone has done take a while to feed through. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Chris. Let's go to questions from the public first. We got Wayne from Bath, please.
The new variant of the virus has been largely blamed for the current situation, including the ineffectiveness of the regional tiered approach, whilst the wide and damaging effects of a lockdown are acknowledged. What plans are the government putting in place to contain any potential future variant that is more easily transmissible or causes more severe disease, especially one that may require adjustments to the approved vaccines?
Well, Wayne, thank you very much. I reckon you're asking the question that so many people are asking in our country at the moment. We've made such progress with the vaccine. What we don't want to see is all that hard work undone by the arrival of a new variant that is vaccine busting, as it were. So a lot of work, scientific work, is being done on that, and I've just outlined some of the steps that we're taking to protect this country from the arrival of new variants of concern from overseas. And you'll have heard, Wayne, what I had to say about the tough measures we're taking at borders and at airports with quarantine to stop new variants coming in. But I think possibly it'd be best to hand over to Chris and Patrick just to say a little bit about whether, how you can adjust vaccines to cope with new variants, and the extent to which we think the existing vaccines we have in the UK are already good for reducing disease and reducing mortality generally.
Shall I begin that, Chris?
Yeah, Patrick.
The first thing to say is in terms of detecting the viruses, we've got a very comprehensive screening program with genomics to get sequences of the virus. That's why we picked up the ones we have. So I think that needs to continue, and to make sure we're on top of actually finding these and then dealing with them early. In terms of the vaccines, the evidence at the moment that we've got in terms of the UK variant is that it transmits more readily. There's no obvious change in the disease course one way or the other, at least within sort of broad areas. So there's nothing to suggest that there's a really big change in disease severity in any way. And in terms of the immunity, everything looks as though this variant will be susceptible to the immune response that's either come about from a previous infection or from vaccines. So there's accumulating evidence to suggest that. In terms of other variants, it's possible that variants will get round vaccines to some extent in the future, and some of them that are out there in the world now may well have more of an effect to bypass some of the existing immune system that's come up in response to a vaccine or previous infection. We don't know that. But I think the vaccines themselves, and this is what I think is really important, is the new types of vaccine, particularly the messenger RNA vaccines, are really quite easy to adjust to changes in the virus. And that is a big change in vaccine technology. It's a very important advance. It's essentially days to make a new starting point, weeks probably to get to a new vaccine if it's needed, providers are happy with the approach. But that is very different from the past. And it's worth also remembering that flu changes year on year, and that's why you need a different flu vaccine each year. So it's a similar sort of problem that we have going forward. As the viruses change, how do you make sure that the vaccine adjusts accordingly over years? And I think it's likely that the vaccine that we have now is going to protect against, say, the UK variant, and is going to provide protection against, I suspect, the other variants as well. The question is just to what degree the efficacy might change a bit, and that's what we've got to find out.
The only thing I'd add to what Patrick has said is that we must see this as an international problem. So we're concentrating absolutely on trying to protect people here in the UK, but it is also important, as we are, that we actually also support every nation, because a problem anywhere is a problem everywhere with a virus like this. So helping to improve diagnostics, helping to make sure vaccines are both researched, which the UK has taken a very significant lead in, but also distributed and available and resourced, which is done through, for example, a system called COVAX. So there's several things we should be doing to support everyone, internationally as well as nationally.
That is completely right, and the problem, I guess, will only really be solved once the whole global population has some measure of vaccination and immunity. And the UK contributes massively to COVAX and CEPI and other global vaccine initiatives. Let's go to Michael from Cornwall.
Good evening. What will the number of daily death rates and COVID-19 infections will the government consider lifting the lockdown restrictions? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I think that's an incredibly it's a very good question. It's a question everybody has been thinking about for a long time. I think the answer is that we want to get to a stage where we're confident that we've vaccinated as I say, the JCVI 1 to 4 cohorts, those in care homes, care home workers, NHS staff, those over 80, those over 70, and so on. The most vulnerable groups, we've got to do them, and then depending on the effectiveness of that rollout, and as you know, we're going for, we're hoping to do all of them by the 15th of February. We will think about what steps we could take to lift the restrictions, but it will also depend on where the disease is and what's happening, because what we can't have, I'd like Chris and Patrick to comment on this as well, what we can't have is any false sense of security, so that we, as it were, lift the restrictions altogether, and then...
Hope you enjoy the show, ladies and gents, the ones that are still here. I enjoy you coming through to support me, absolutely. Of course I do. Some ironic things we're going to talk about. Sage issues a statement on if England will go into another lockdown. I was talking about we could possibly go into another lockdown. Coronavirus latest news headlines on August the 7th. Our rate falls in between 0.8 and 1.1. More lockdowns, unlikely. A return to life as normal could fuel an autumn wave of coronavirus cases, but further lockdowns may not be required. A government scientific advisor said. Professor John Edmonds, a member of the scientific advisory group for emergency SAGE, said he was cautiously optimistic that another lockdown would not be needed to bring cases under control again. Professor Edmonds said there was a need to be very cautious about the situation at the moment because previous peaks had been countered by locking down. We're not doing this that time, he told Times Radio, but I don't think we need to go into lockdown. I hope not anyway. I very much hope not. I'm cautiously optimistic about that. Infections are expected to rise again in September when school and university terms begin, and more workers are expected to return to the office. Professor Edmonds said, "We will return to completely normal behaviour. I don't know. But there's a long way to go between the sorts of behaviours that we're collectively making now and advantage behaviour that we are making before the pandemic. There is a big difference. If we go back to completely normal, that will certainly fuel an autumn wave." Fellow SAGE member Professor Neil Ferguson, among the government's most prominent scientific advisors on COVID, also predicted it is unlikely a lockdown will be needed again. We need it again to control the virus. In an interview with the Times, he said, "I think it is unlikely we will need a new lockdown or even social distancing measures of what type we've had so far." The Imperial College professor also told the newspaper that lockdowns cannot be ruled out, as they may still be needed if the virus changes substantially. However, Professor Ferguson added that COVID was going to a transition quite quickly in a few months to be more something we live with and manage through the vaccination rather than crisis measures. He said the vaccine had dramatically changed the relationship between cases and hospitalisation. The professor said that the Euro 2020 football championship had created an artificially inflated level of contact, leading to his prediction in July that the UK would hit 100,000 COVID cases a day following the phase 4 of unlocking. After the tournament ended, cases decreased. And Professor Ferguson said the pandemic has also had a reasonable effect on making it harder for the virus to spread. So that's good, isn't it? The pandemic means people have had the vaccination. The vaccination rollout has been absolute phenomenal. That is absolutely amazing, guys. Really is. I hope you guys, the ones that are taking the vaccine, give yourself a pat on the back, basically. The optimistic assessment for the leading scientists came as people was in Wales enjoyed new freedoms as lockdown eased there. From 6 a.m, all restrictions on meeting others were removed. And all businesses, including nightclubs, reopened. Face masks will continue to be required on public transport and health and social care settings and in shops. Venues will be required by law to undertake coronavirus risk assessments intended to encourage businesses to keep in place measures such as ventilation or social distancing where necessary to keep staff and customers safe. Adults who are fully vaccinated and young people under the age of 18 will no longer need to isolate if they are close to contact of someone who has coronavirus. Or people must continue to isolate for 10 days if they have symptoms of COVID-19 or if they have a positive test result. That is absolutely phenomenal news. Don't know what you guys think about that. That is phenomenal. We've got something ironic. I mean, I speak to my work coach on many occasions. And they go, "What do you want to be?" I said, "How does an astronaut become an astronaut? They study physics. They study a lot of physics and science." I want to know, how does an astronaut become an astronaut? Because he doesn't go work in Morrison's shop and you get your work coach and I'll make you up for work.
And the disease really runs riot in the younger generations. And as you know, at the moment, I think about a third of those going into hospital are under 65 and about a quarter under 55 from memory. Chris Patrick may want to correct me on that. And so it can affect and does affect huge numbers of younger people as well, often very badly. And the risk is that those numbers would be greatly inflated if we let go too soon in circumstances where the disease was really rampant. That is not to say, Michael, that we don't want, or that I don't want to try to get to relaxations as soon as we reasonably can. But there's a lot of things that have to go right. We have to make sure the vaccine program is working well. We have to make sure that there are no new variants or no big changes in our understanding of the disease. And we've got to work together to deliver the results of the current lockdown and get the disease under control. And there are some signs in some places that is working, but it's going to take a huge national effort.
Two things just to add to what the Prime Minister said. I mean, the first is a point he's made before, and I think which is in a sense common sense, which is we're not going to move from a sudden lockdown situation to nothing. It will have to be walking backwards by degrees, testing what works, and then if that works, going the next step. The second thing is that all the way through this, we've talked about the fact that there are direct effects from COVID deaths, and we hope that vaccination will help to reduce those very substantially. But there are also indirect effects from a situation where the NHS could become really under pressure, and all the other things like cancer and cardiovascular, heart disease and stroke services, for example, are really affected. So we've got not only to reduce the direct effects, we've also got to make sure there's sufficient ability for the NHS to treat all these other things, or we could have a significant health problem, which in a sense was just a knock-on from the fact that people who are not likely to die of COVID but have very severe COVID and are in hospital mean that we can't treat other things. So we need to just always think about those other areas of health as well.
So, Michael, it's not that the death rate isn't important. It is important, and we will, of course, consider it, but it's just one of the factors that we've got to bear in mind. It's the rate of the disease and the risk of another really huge spike of infection.
I'll get back to the last bit of the show. This is something ironic. NAS are looking for applicants who want to pretend to live on Mars for a year. Successful applicants will work for a stimulated Martian exploration mission complete with spacewalks. NASA has started accepting applications for 4 people to live for a year in Mars. Dune Alpha. That is a 1,700 square foot Martian habitat created by a 3D printer and inside a building at Johnson Space Center in Houston. The project is part of an agency's preparation for an eventual real-life Martian manned mission. Paid volunteers will work a stimulated Martian exploration mission complete with spacewalks, limited communications back home, restricted food and resources and equipment failures. NASA is planning 3 of these experiments, the first one starting in autumn next year. Food will be ready to eat space food, and at the moment there are no windows planned. Some plants will be grown, but not potatoes like in the movie The Martian. We want to understand how humans perform in them, said the lead scientist Grace Douglas. While looking at Mars ballistic situations, the application process opened on Friday and the requirements are strict, including a master's degree in assigned engineering or math field or pilot experience. Only US citizens or permanent US residents are eligible. Applicants have to be between 33 to 55, in good physical health, with no dietary issues and not prone to motion sickness. That shows NASA is looking for people who are close to astronauts, said former Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield. He said that was a good thing because it was a better experiment if the participants are more similar to the people who really go to Mars. Past Russian efforts as a pretend Mars mission called Mars 500 did not end well, partly because the people were too much like everyday people, he said. For the right person, this could be great, said Mr. Hadfield, who spent 5 months in orbit in 2013 at an international space station where he played guitar and sang a cover video of David Bowie's Space Oddity. Just think how much you're going to be able to catch up on Netflix, he said. If they have a musical instrument there, you could go into there knowing nothing and come out a concert musician if you want. It could be incredible freedom in a year away from demand of your normal life. Attitude is key, said Mr. Hadfield, who has a novel of the Apollo murders coming out in autumn. He said the participants need to be like Damon's Watney character, super competent, resourceful, and not relying on people to feel comfortable. Ladies and gents, I've had an absolutely phenomenal show, always coming back with exfoliating my expressions. I'm a political analyst. I like to emphasise my habilitations with what's provided by other journalists. I could become a journalist myself. All you need is a dictaphone, a dictatape recorder, speaker recorder if you have it on your phone, which we do have a lot of them. You come back and write that journal up in your own words. I've done it. I'll do it in my everyday activities in university. I'm pretty sure you can do it without going to university. It ain't the hardest job in the world. It takes a lot of time and perseverance. You got to sit there hours on end typing up and rewinding what was just said and typing up what's been said. But they've got computers now where you can record what's been spoken about on your phone. You can absolutely record it. You can change some of the words if you want in your own words. Make life a lot easier, a lot more amicable and readable. Anyway, ladies and gents, Proclamation of Gatherence is Saturday the 7th. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. The sun's seeping through the clouds, the cloudy sky where I am in Essex constituency. I just want to say thank you. I'm so overwhelmed with supporting the show. Have a wonderful day. So take care. God bless. And one love.